Welcome to the Prepped and Polished podcast, the podcast that empowers you to take control of your education, featuring weekly interviews with influencers in the world of education, as well as tutoring tips, lessons, and updates. And now, here's your host.
Hi everyone, welcome to another tutoring tips episode of the Prepped and Polished podcast. It's Terri of Prepped and Polished. Please be sure to check out our website, www.preppedandpolished.com. For tutoring in person or online, call us at 781-753-9951 or chat with us instantly on our website. You can join our Prepped and Polished community on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Prepped and Polished. If you have a question after the show, please ask us a question on the chat feature on our website. We love hearing from you. So let's get right to episode number 195 on how to avoid 3 pitfalls of rhetorical skills questions on the ACT English test, Part 2, Transitions Between Paragraphs. So one thing that's important to know before we get more into transitions between paragraphs is that the ACT English test has 2 question types, usage and mechanics and rhetorical skills. And the rhetorical skills questions cover style, strategy, and organization. Most of my students dread the rhetorical skills questions and find these the most difficult and time-consuming. And one common type of rhetorical skills question would be transitions between paragraphs. Those are very tricky, and there are some steps that can help to conquer transitions between paragraphs. First of all, students often don't really look carefully at what the question on the test is asking for. And one of the ones that I have here as an example says that given that all the choices are true, which one provides the best transition into the rest of the essay? And the portion that was underlined to consider was in paragraph 1. It was the last sentence of paragraph 1. And so students had to consider which sentence in that position would provide the best transition into the rest of the essay. And it was a passage called Mother Jones, True to the Spirit of Her Cause. One of the best ways to kind of decide about transitions between paragraphs is, you really need to read actively and read the paragraphs with an eye to main ideas. Students should even jot down a note in the margin what each paragraph is focusing on, because then you can see if the transitions are logical and if there's a smooth flow. So for example, in this particular Mother Jones passage, the first paragraph was all about her autobiography, but it said her autobiography wasn't about her life. The second paragraph was all about her involvement in labor politics, and the third paragraph was about how she got the moniker or nickname of Mother Jones, and it explained a lot about that and why she was given that name and how that became her public persona. So if students, become familiar, with any passage they get, what each paragraph is focusing on, it'll really help them. In this particular one, the first paragraph was about her autobiography. The second paragraph was about her involvement in labor politics, like I said, and the third one was about the moniker Mother Jones. So another step that helps is to look in the paragraphs. In this case, it was in the opening paragraph, and see if anything needs to be further explained. Was anything left out? In this particular one, it said the autobiography wasn't really about Mary Jones' life. And my thought was, well, what is it primarily about? So then that helped to pick out the correct answer choice. Narrowing down the choices and plugging in the remaining option are the final steps. So the options that this particular passage gave, in the first paragraph, the sentence that was in question was Jones became famous for her work. And it was very awkward. It didn't provide a smooth transition into the rest of the essay. And then there were some others that were also just not the correct answer. One was about when she was born, which really wasn't needed. And one was about, it was saying what the essay would show, but effective essays don't say what they'll show. The one that was correct was rather. It had a transition word, rather, which was a contrast word. The autobiography wasn't about her life, rather, it was the story of her public persona and how she got the name Mother Jones. And that really led into the rest of the essay, so that was the correct answer. So knowing transition words, the continuer, the contrast, the cause and effect helps a lot. And that way students can tackle these transitions between paragraphs in a good way. One tip that I always like to give students is that rhetorical questions on the ACT English test take longer than usage mechanics questions, which cover grammar, punctuation, word usage, and sentence structure. So if a student can aim to complete 2 questions per minute, there are 75 questions, they'll have about 8 extra minutes to spend on these tricky rhetorical questions like transitions between paragraphs. This wraps up our show, episode number 195, How to Avoid 3 Pitfalls of Rhetorical Skills Questions on the ACT English Test. This was part 2, Transitions Between Paragraphs. Be on the lookout for our next podcast, episode number 196, which will be our next interview with an educational expert. Remember to access all of our podcast episodes. Go to www.preppedandpolished.com/podcast. Thanks for joining us on the Prepped and Polished podcast. Now go out there and take control of your education.
You've been listening to the Prepped and Polished podcast. For more information, check out preppedandpolished.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening. Class dismissed.